What's the worst double standard? It isn't the worst double standard, far from it, but it's annoying. It's about the workers who start early and leave early versus the workers who start late and leave late. Let's say I start to work at the office at 6 a.m. while my coworker starts at 8 a.m. If I leave at 2 p.m. and he leaves at 4 p.m., we would have accomplished about the same amount of work. For some reason, I'd be the one who's tagged as lazy because I leave the job earlier. It didn't happen to me, but I witnessed it a few times during my career. Well, some people just don't know how to do math. Story 2. Wage theft is larger than all other forms of theft combined, but is not considered a crime. If you steal $100 from the register, you will go to jail, be branded a felon, and potentially lose your voting rights. If your boss leaves $100 out of your paycheck, you can maybe recoup some portion of that after a protracted civil case at significant personal cost. Story 3. If you take maternity leave, your job or position is protected and your medical insurance still covers you. You can also use any campus facility at my previous university as you're still considered a student, and your scholarships can be put on hold. NSCRC even pays a stipend. Get cancer and need to take some time off? Well, job's not held. Your insurance refuses to cover you as you aren't working. You'll also lose your scholarships, and being on a medical leave of absence means you can't use any uni's facility without paying a premium. Now that's just obnoxious. Story 4. Parents can disrespect their children at every turn and insult them, but when the child stands up for themselves and insults back, they're reprimanded for being ungrateful and disrespectful. If you want your freaking kids to respect you, offer them the same courtesy. You brought them into this world. They didn't ask to be born, and they shouldn't suffer from your own shortcomings. They were treated that way by their parents, so they think it's fair to treat you like that. It's stupid. Story 5. There's a political one that annoys me. Posting a picture of a political cartoon that pokes fun at the other side and chuckling, then screaming at someone doing the same thing at the expense of your side. If you post a picture making fun of another political party or insulting that party's voters or politicians, then you are tacitly accepting that the reverse is okay. Story 6. The Catholic Church's continued covering up of its kitty fiddler priests. Anyone who was raised Catholic will know that the most basic teaching in Catholicism is that Jesus passed away so that our sins can be forgiven, as long as we admit to them and ask for forgiveness. So basically, if you do something wrong, admit it, and you'll be forgiven. Well, the church expects its adherents to follow this basic idea, but when it was time for the church to admit its sins, it just covered them up. It's the most ridiculous double standard and the main reason why I left the church. Story 7. Politicians. Everything about them is a double standard. Ban guns, except for me and my bodyguards. Walls are bad. Let's tear them down, except for the wall surrounding my $1 million lakefront house with private security. That wall stays up. Let's change our nation's healthcare. We'll make an exception for Congress because we like our healthcare. We need to be more green. Stop buying SUVs and boats. Except for me, because I need a private jet, yacht, armored Cadillac with V8 engine and 3 houses. Screw all politicians. Story 8. At our job, men have to wear long-sleeved shirts, long pants, and closed shoes in the office no matter the weather. If it's 40 degrees Celsius, you might get away with wearing those 3/4 length chino shorts and a short-sleeve business shirt. You'll still get a few side eyes. But women can dress like they just walked in front of the beach. Short skirts, crop tops, sundresses, open-toed sandals. Pretty much anything goes. They look cool and fresh in summer while us poor men are all sweating and flustered in the heat. Story 9. Pay your rent on the 1st. Absolutely no later than the 5th or there will be late fees. Check account on the 6th of the month after sending the check a week before. Same balance. Check on the 7th or 8th, etc. Same balance. Those schmucks aren't depositing the rent check. But I can't pay you past the 5th? Why? Screw your late fees. I should get credit for you not depositing the money. Why demand it by a specific date if you're just going to sit on it? Landlords are stupid. Story 10. Poor and working class people get crap for buying a $3 coffee drink, but rich people will spend thousands on a single bottle of wine and get praised for their refined palate. Lower classes can't do anything for their own enjoyment without getting criticized. The onus is always on being frugal, and any deviation is met with, well, maybe that's why you're poor, or you're greedy for getting financial assistance and not using every penny you have for basic survival and savings. But the upper classes can do whatever they please, no matter how trivial, and get praised for their good investments. And if it's something indefensible, well, they can afford it. They've earned the right to do what they will with their money. Basic enjoyment ought not to be a luxury. Bread and roses. Story 11. Women who accuse men of SA because they regret having intimacy with them. My cousin was dating this chick for a while and they broke up, so she went to the police with a false accusation, even when she was proven to be a liar. She admitted to a friend she made it up, and the friend accidentally recorded it and got hit with a minor sentence. He was fired from his job and couldn't even sign on to unemployment benefits as a result, and then the case was closed. Story 12. This isn't the worst, but it's extremely pervasive and I never see it talked about. Dogs and cats. If someone meets a cat that's antisocial, hisses at people, growls, scratches, and bites, they decide that's a crappy cat and I hate cats. If someone meets a dog that's antisocial, barks, and misbehaves, they think that dog is a crappy owner. The person should really have trained it better. I've met loads of people who hate cats and love dogs with this exact bias. Either it's the owner's fault or the animal's fault. Pick one. Story 13. Teacher here. Moms, including single moms, get criticized for things like not varying their children's lunch enough or occasionally being late dropping their kids off at school. Children having messy hair or crumpled clothes or, I don't know, stupid stuff. Dads, especially single dads, get praised for the dumbest things. Kids come to school with 2 lopsided pigtails. Oh my god, he tried so hard to do her hair. He comes to a school event. Oh my god, he's so involved. I literally saw this happen to the same children. When the parents were together and the mom was the main caregiver, it was, why are their clothes so messy? Did she even brush their hair? She forgot to send a snack for the field trip. What was she thinking? When they split up, the kids ended up with the dad, which was the right decision in my opinion, while custody was being decided. Not exactly sure how that happened. I know it's not usual, but after seeing him be a single dad for literally 2 weeks, one of my coworkers, one of the same ones who lobbed all those criticisms at the children's mom, took it upon herself to write a letter to family court, extolling the dad's parenting virtues, which was literally stuff like, he tries his best to make sure they get to school on time, and he's learning how to do his daughter's hair, and he makes sure they come to school with a change of clothes in case they have an accident. Don't get me wrong, those are all good things, but also, those are all things these kids' moms are doing as well. But they didn't get noticed. If she's a mom and those things are expected. When the dad does them for the exact same children, it's somehow worthy of writing a letter to family court because it's so exceptional. Woman, you should hear the other side. Story 14. Lookism. Judging someone based on their physical appearance. The halo effect makes people believe that someone's physical attractiveness means that they're also decent, educated, professional, hardworking, and overall good-natured. Beautiful people are held to a different standard, and people have a hard time believing that a good-looking person is capable of being a schmuck. On the other hand, ugly people are considered lazy, sleazy, untrustworthy, and are constantly ignored, dismissed, and considered unworthy. Story 15. Not so much of a double standard, but in athletic competition, trans women are allowed to compete with biological women. They have extreme advantages and are thus winning more competitions and are breaking records. But in men's sports, you don't hear of trans men doing the same. It blows my mind how people can't see the injustice. There should be an open category for trans athletes to compete in. Story 16. I'm in high school and female. If I tell a female teacher how much I love her and how much she means to me, I'm just showing appreciation and being open with my feelings in a positive way. If I tell a male teacher how much I love him and how much he means to me, I'm a creep and begging for good grades. I just wish I could show my male teacher some appreciation without it being misinterpreted. Story 17. We all knew this, of course. With men, it's okay and totally normal to have this body hair. Hairy arms, hairy armpits, hairy legs, and hairy chest, etc. Because hey, they're men, right? With women, it's gross and disgusting to have these hairy arms and hairy legs. I don't know why some people think it's normal for men to have these and not normal for women. Have you ever wondered if women actually like your hairy chest? I actually don't, because I don't have one. Story 18. Feminists, anti-racists, etc. that aggressively stereotype and generalize everyone, but will cry if their own pet group is stereotyped. If you think it is fine to say men are horrible or men are trash, but then get up all in arms when someone says women are deceitful or women are hysterical, and that is a double standard, which is very annoying. It seems this is accelerating too, with certain groups being 100% fair game for attacks while we protect other sacred cows. I mean, the AP now writes whites with a lowercase w and blacks with an uppercase b. And part of their justification is that white people are bad, so they deserve it. The other part of their justification is that white people know their history while black people don't. How many white people are mutts that have no clear idea of their history or ancestry? It isn't like ancestors were reserved for the old country and Scottish people are 100% Scottish now. Or that all families kept records and everyone knows. Anyone could get on 23andMe and see what their DNA is, so it's such a silly argument. Story 19. I'm a girl working in technical area, mostly with men. The usual double standard is, a man makes a mistake, yeesh, he did that because he's an idiot. Hopefully next time will be better. A woman makes a mistake. See, this is what I've been talking about. She did that because all women are technical anti-talent. They should be banned from doing anything technical now. Basically, the double standard is that when a man makes something stupid, it is individual. When a woman does something stupid, it is a kind of collective failure. This approach is immensely idiotic, but it often works like that in areas that are not typically for women. Story 20. Person 1. I'm poor and I want to be rich. I'm going to do XYZ thing. Person 2. I'm poor and I want to be rich. I'm going to person 1. Hey, it's current year. Everybody knows that XYZ thing is wrong. I only did it because it happened before current year. Person 2. Are you going to return your stolen wealth or land or resources, etc., to undo what would be considered unacceptable in the current year? Person 1. No, I changed the rules to say that XYZ thing is wrong after I got everything I wanted. I wasn't wrong back when I did it, so all the stuff is legitimately mine. Person 2. Are you going to share your stuff with me so that I can have your quality of life without needing to do XYZ thing? Person 1. No, it's my stuff and I don't like you, so I'm not going to share. Person 2. Then I'm going to figure things out myself since you don't want to help me. Can you at least screw off and stop interfering? Person 1. No, I'm not wasting such a great opportunity to stand on a moral high horse and virtue signal super hard. Person 2. Well, what do you expect me to do then? Person 1. Rafflecopters, LMAO, obviously you should just stay poor. We wouldn't be able to feel powerful if there wasn't a huge underclass of peasants to grovel at our feet for breadcrumbs and do all our dirty work while we make fun of them. Obviously, the only reason they're poor is because they're incompetent and not because we're intentionally preventing them from being able to challenge our hegemony. Geopolitics in a nutshell. How I realized that everything is BS. Story 21. I had a friend get blackout intoxicated and a girl who had been trying to get him to talk to her, which he didn't, started to hit on him and she started to give him a whistle while he was close to being passed out. His girlfriend found out and broke up with him for cheating. Fast forward to about 3 months later, her best friend gets taken advantage of by a guy at a party while intoxicated. Did she ever accuse her friend of cheating? No. Did her friend's boyfriend get mad? No, because he's a rational human. Men can be essayed by women. Normalize saying this. That is the worst double standard. Story 22. I tormented a guy in high school for calling me a pre-owned in front of people at a party. His reasoning? He made advancements. I refused, so he thought it best to attack me for not being pure. The double standard lies in the fact that it came from a spoiled, rich athlete that had been passed around more times than salt at a dinner table, which I only knew because he bragged about it in an attempt to assert dominance or some crap. He was known for being notoriously sexist, sometimes even showing out to female teachers if he felt haughty enough and was just an overall complete schmuck. I got mad and proceeded to reveal to him that I was a lesbian, had no morbid interest in him, and counter-shamed him in the most disgusted tone I could possibly muster. It was something along the lines of, I'm glad you enjoy being a dugout. Used up, the girls can pump twice for a quick $1, but you didn't have to tell me that. It's really gross. I know what it's like to be a little weird though, so I won't judge you for it too hard. Gave the dude a beautifully placed hesitant touch on the shoulder. Got up and walked away. People there did that annoying, ooh crap, and he got all embarrassed and mad. After that, every time I saw him, if he got even remotely close, I went away dramatically and verbally grimaced. Each time it visibly embarrassed or angered him, even if no one else around knew why I did it. My friends would join in sometimes too and whisper anytime he walked by with disgusting faces plastered for mass effect. It did get kind of out of hand when other girls started joining in though. Some were even approaching him to flirt, ask about his money, say degrading things, and walk away laughing. Man couldn't get some for crap from what I heard, unless it was by one of the school train stations, if you know what I mean. I realized years later I may have gone too far though, and now that I look back, I actually feel bad for it. I moved from that school a year later, but apparently the dude had gone from schmuck high school hunk to reserved insecure wreck over the span of 2 years. I saw him again in college. By then, he had dropped sports and everything, and constantly looked like a sunken shell of the hothead he used to be. He stopped being avidly sexist as far as I knew, and for all I know, other things could have happened to him, but man, was it really weird seeing him like that. Well, I'd say it was well deserved. Story 23. My mother once went on a trip to South Africa for a vacation and met this boyfriend she met on Instagram that she never even saw in person once. That witch knew we needed the money to move to Miami for a better life and school, but her dumb self thought that it would be a good idea to cancel the move, make me do homeschooling, and have no social life so that she can go on her dream trip with her dream guy, expecting a happy ending. And then she has the complete audacity to get mad with me when I'm not on board with this. Now when it comes to me wanting to take a trip abroad, UK, she's all like, oh, they're too expensive, your 2-year-old brother won't do well on the flight, making excuses. When I move, hopefully to the UK after research and saving, I never want to see her again. Story 24. When you are intoxicated and drive a vehicle, you're at fault and legally in trouble. When you're intoxicated and someone has intimacy with you, you can't legally consent and it's not your fault and you aren't legally in trouble. What I'm trying to say here is that there's a double standard about being intoxicated and somehow you're accountable in one and not accountable in the other. The person knew what they were doing when they drove intoxicated and was responsible, and yet the person was intoxicated and wasn't responsible for having intimacy because they were intoxicated. That's a really hot take. Story 25. Many people support the Native American people as they should and speak out against the horrible things that have happened to them, but When much of the same stuff happens to native Palestinians, it is suddenly too complicated and people feel for both sides. Do people feel for the European colonizers who oppressed and ended so many Native Americans? No. So why do people not just feel for but support the Israeli people when they do ethnic cleansing? Destroy our homes and villages, spread horrible propaganda and out us, and separate us from everything, going so far as to build up walls and segregate airports and roads. Story 26. My school has the worst double standard between girls and boys and mental illnesses. If a boy has any kind of mental illness, they're babied and you're a monster if you report that they did something wrong. I'm AFAB and have PTSD. Anytime someone or something sets me off and I start crying, my teachers, mainly maths, will make a snide remark of, "There she goes again. Why are you crying now? Come on, we're waiting for an answer." This isn't just happening to me. My best friend, female, had a panic attack and was told to toughen up. Story 27. When a black character is whitewashed, everyone gets up in arms, and rightfully so. Whitewashing is deplorable. No white character is turned black, on the other hand. It's celebrated for being diverse, but in its own way, it's a deplorable act. Race bending is terrible. Don't do it. Come up with your own original black characters instead of going the lazy and uncreative route and making a black version of white characters like what Marvel and DC are doing. In the end, DC and Marvel are offending the minority group they're trying to appeal to, and mainstream audiences, for some reason, eat it up, which only enables their behavior. When we get characters like Miles Morales or some AU storyline with a black Superman, what we really should be thinking is, oh, so DC and Marvel are too lazy to go the extra mile and make an original black character, or just do the research to find a character in their universe who's of a minority to make a story about. So instead, they give us these off-brands and rip-offs of established heroes. I'd say Miles Morales is his own character. What I don't like is changing an original character to somebody else. Story 28. The United States media, in case you aren't aware, there is a perception that they favor the Democratic Party. Many believe they protect and coddle Democratic officials and policies, avoiding pressing or putting on the spot anyone who is a Democrat in office. It's often seen as entirely softball interviews, and if by chance they ask a hard, exposing question, it's done in a very cream puff way with zero follow-up or pressing. Republicans, on the other hand, are often seen as being raked over the coals 24/7 with what some perceive as misleading and untrue reporting. If a Republican crossed the street wrong, it's claimed it would be in every headline with 24/7 nonstop coverage, with commentators allegedly spewing their negativity about how horrible Republicans are. Story 29. It wasn't the worst job, but I worked in a call center where we clocked in a program and adjusted our status throughout our shift to reflect our activities, accounting for the entire time. The statuses include things like available, after call follow-up, away from desk, lunch, break, IT issue, admin, manual dial, meeting, training, and gone home. We had to switch to available right at 9 a.m., and if we didn't, the system would log us in as late. Being late resulted in dock pay in 15-minute increments. At the end of the day, at 9 p.m., if we worked the closing shift, we had to remain in available until 9:01 p.m. to ensure we answered any calls still in the queue. We weren't paid for that extra minute at the end. If you did the closing shift 6 days a week, that's about 5 hours of unpaid work per year just for that 9:01 p.m. finish. Yet, if you were even a minute late at the start, you'd be docked for a full 15 minutes. Story 30. This one's a personal one, but if my mom asks me an intrusive question that I feel uncomfortable answering and I try to skirt the issue, then I'm a drama queen. But the moment I ask something completely benign, then she throws a hissy fit and says I'm being intrusive. Hey mom, there's a big difference between you asking about it if I'm going to give you grandkids and me wondering if you want to make tacos for dinner. Story 31. You can't decide on a single worst. Some of the ones I can think of. The women or non-white people can't be sexist or racist, or you can't be sexist or racist or offensive even towards cis white men. If a guy acts feminine, he's obviously either gay or trans, not even considering cross-dressers or just feminine men. But if a woman acts masculine, they're obviously just a tomboy. Maybe closeted lesbians and trans men are more accepted now, but still overall, the concept. People who watch Twitch or YouTube are wasting their lives, watching other people playing video games rather than doing it themselves. People who watch sports on TV aren't, apparently. Personal experience says they're the people saying this contradiction seriously. Well, since you are on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 32. When you're a grunt worker for a company, you're maybe like 1 or 2 minutes, maybe just barely 5 minutes past your clock-in time, and it's a big deal. Fireable offense, even. After just a mere few offenses. It doesn't matter if you're a great employee, get your work done, stay late, come in on your days off, come in early, pleasant to everyone, don't cause drama, etc. But then in comes the manager 2 hours late, regularly, just because they simply couldn't be bothered to show up on time. They make twice as much as you and aren't held accountable for their slack no matter how much they suck. At least not until a much larger accumulation of crap before anyone even takes notice. Screw those kind of managers. Story 33. It's frustrating when employers expect a picture-perfect CV every time and seem to overlook the significant efforts candidates make. This can include preparing presentations, traveling for hours, like a 5-hour train journey, often without any reimbursement for travel costs, and dedicating their time to attend a job interview scheduled and to receive a poor, effortless, automated email that essentially says, "Not you," without any real feedback is incredibly disappointing. What's worse is when some employers don't even respond to further questions. It's just inconsiderate. Interviews should just be online at this point. Story 34. When a job wants you to have 5 to 10 years of experience at an entry-level job, but your only experience is in college, not in the field. Imagine, fresh out of college, with a degree in hand, ready to make a life for themselves, start applying to jobs that fit their qualifications, only to find out every place wants experience, but none are willing to provide experience. Or imagine having that associate's degree and applying for some lesser jobs that still fall into what you can do and what you're looking for. Maybe it's only $11.25 instead of $17.50, like the other ones you applied to, but it's solid, steady work and you can still grow and ride the ranks up in. Then they decide not to hire you. Why? You're overqualified and they don't want to pay the difference. They want someone with undergraduate level skills with a high school diploma. You would think since they're desperate right now for employees, this would change, but they have not. I need a desk job right now after I was injured working as a nurse's aide for 4 months during this lockdown. I became a nursing home secretary, but only made $8.25 instead of $14.75 I was making. I was forced to work every other weekend, despite asking for hours because I can survive with so little. $8.25 for 16 hours bi-weekly didn't even cover my rent. I looked for another job, found one I worked at previously, knowing it was a desk job. Got the job, only to be threatened and pestered out in less than 3 days by my new coworkers because I was working the first shift, which was offered to me, meaning their friend who was temporarily first and second shift couldn't slack off with them. So now I'm jobless and stuck in an infinite loop of you're overqualified or underqualified. Story 35. Before I get most medical procedures, including ones that are desperately and urgently needed to save my life, they must give me a pregnancy test to make sure I'm not pregnant. And if I am, the procedure cannot happen. The cells and barely formed life potentially inside me is held more valuable than my fully formed life, regardless if I already have a child waiting at home. Cis men and trans women are able to get these things done regardless, minus the trans discrimination that occurs in healthcare, because they cannot get pregnant. My full life in front of you is more important than a barely sprouted life that may survive inside me. Screw that crap. Story 36. When the school requires girls to wear long pants and boys can wear shorts, they sit there at ease, wearing just a t-shirt and shorts. Meanwhile, the girls must wear long pants, jeans or tights, and it's hot in them. They're not the airy shorts boys wear, and shirts. The hair is on the back of the head, even when it's tied, and then sometimes they dare to complain that they're cold and want to turn off the conditioner. Unrelated to the AC, it's very irritating. They know anyone is not allowed to wear shorts, and yet they wear them, knowing they can get away with it while the girls are discriminated against. I can't help but feel disdain for anyone who wears shorts with such non-solidarity, albeit I won't admit it in public. I like the words to describe this double standard, and it's the boys' fault for allowing it and making the rule a discrimination, knowing they won't be enforced. And I'm astounded that their moms let them do this and keep this injustice. Story 37. I had a manager write me up because I had a sick day, and lockdown times too, and I clocked in 3 minutes late a few times. I worked opening shifts and depend on others to unlock the door, hence the minutes late. Not only did the other staff members not get in trouble for late clock-ins, at the time I was being written up for a sick day. The coworker I got sick from was on her 5th sick day in a row. I asked. She never got in trouble. Oh, but also, the manager would just choose to not come into work if she didn't feel like driving. I quit. Clearly wanted me to leave and was finding any way to fire me. It was just a crappy big company retail job too. If I'm just a number, I'll take a sick day. Story 38. So I was going back to my college after summer break. It is 3 hours away. I was traveling by bus. Got my seat and settled down, and a girl around 20 years old sat next to me. After 30 minutes, she starts using my shoulder as a headrest, facilitating her to sleep. I'm 6 foot tall, she was 5'6", and she got pretty comfortable throughout the journey. I didn't say anything, but I let her know that I didn't like it, but she didn't care. When I got to my dorm room, I thought, what if a guy did that to a girl? What would be the consequences of that? He would get arrested and or beat up. Story 39. A guy can hang with a group of girls or sleep with a group of girls, but if a girl does it, she's a witch. I grew up living with my mom in a not-so-good part of town, and I usually only had guy friends. This was fine because I was super young, but when my father got custody of me when I was around 10, I was never allowed to hang with him. This made me really mad. I never got along well with most girls because my humor is too blunt for them, and they are really sensitive, so I've always found it easier to click with the guys. I've only ever had one boyfriend in my life, and we're still together after almost 3 years, but he has a few buddies who I hang with too. My father will not let me go swimming with more than 2 guys unless I have another girl with me, and I hate it. He says boys will be boys, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. My friends would never do that. And we're 15 and just want to swim in 30-degree weather. My dad even said he wouldn't care if my boyfriend hung around all my girlfriends, but I can't hang with his buddies because I'll look wrong in the public eye. I hate it. Story 40. It always annoyed me that in the country, men either have to do 6 months of military service or 9 months of civil service, all with a really crappy pay that's way underneath the minimum wage here. There was a big debate by some feminists which resulted in our national hymn being changed because it's sexist. I mean, I can understand it, but I still think that the priorities here are a little mixed up. Even my grandmother once complained to me that it's sexist girls can't do the same military or civil service. They can, just for a whole year, and they get to choose. Story 41. My ex-girlfriend thinking hurting me was okay and threatening me to make a scene if I'd ever hit back. A few times she went too far, so I instinctively pushed her away. She got furious and said she would have fallen and hit her head somewhere. A few days after our breakup, she wanted to talk to me. I didn't. We still lived together and she tried to circle me in the kitchen. I wanted to walk away, so she grabbed a kitchen knife and pointed it at me. I don't exactly remember how I got out of there. I think I kinda could talk her down. Story 42. The double standard that's present around every boss. It's cool if they have an attitude and act unprofessional. You just have to deal with it as a working person, is the phrase I always get. But the worker, they are expected to be perfect. No attitude, no bad days, and no freedom to express themselves, even in a professional, healthy, and productive way. They aren't allowed crap. It's like we aren't allowed to be human anymore. I had a manager ask why I left the room twice before morning break. Sorry, I had to whiz and crap. If the manager got asked that question, it would be insane. But it's the power dynamic. It's awful, and it only happens because the power dynamic is so messed up and no one has respect for their employees anymore. Story 43. Dads babysit or play Mr. Mom, but moms are the ones doing the work. A mom can take her son into the women's restroom with no problem, but a dad taking his daughter into the men's room is met with stares and sometimes confrontation. This one happened to me. A woman who doesn't want to be a parent can get a termination, and most reasonable people don't care. A man doesn't want to be a parent is told to man up and do his part and take care of his child he helped make. A woman can hit a man in public and no one bats an eye. As soon as that man fights back, the crowd will descend on him and he's the bad guy. Men who have been mistreated or essayed are not believed, even with evidence. But a woman is believed simply by saying so. A man can have intimacy with multiple partners and no one really cares. A woman cannot. Now let me make a callback to that woman who complained about dads. This is why your problem was normalized. Story 44. Force majeure clauses in residential leases. Basically, the ones that I've been seeing state that the landlord is completely absolved should they be unable to perform necessary repairs or adhere to any aspect of their lease if the reason is because of an act of God, such as a war, lockdown, hurricane, earthquake, volcanism, government action or inaction, death in the family, or serious illness. These exact same things, however, do not absolve the renter from any of their duties. Basically, the renter still has to find a way to pay rent, even in the natural disaster when they may not be working and even if the property they are living in may be damaged so badly that they can't even use it. But the landlord doesn't have to hold up their end of the bargain and gets to say it's because of whatever the disaster or event is. Now that's just flat out brain dead. Story 45. I've lived as an ugly fat person and as someone in shape enough to be considered attractive. Honestly, it's the biggest double standard there is. And I'm not sure if it's linked to the human psyche through evolution or just from the plastic BS Hollywood's pushed on us since the 50s. There's so many negative nuances in being fat that I don't think it's worth it to live that way. Not because you'll pass away early, but you'll be mostly miserable the entire time. People who never went from fat to fit have no idea. Most people who have gone fit were never fat first. Maybe overweight, but not like properly fat. I think I was 260 or more pounds at 5'9" this time when I started. I'm pudding. Not like a slight belly or little man melons. I'm talking about a basketball wrapped in a tire as my stomachs and my melons would make women jealous. You got a really weird outlook on life since you're wallowing in depression and teetering on depressive thoughts for so long. I'm currently working on getting fit again. And there's another BS part of being fat. I'm about 3 weeks in and I just started seeing results. A more average person would have seen results in half the time. Oh, and going to the gym, even though I know no one is watching or cares, is still embarrassing for me flopping my fat around. No one cares. They're in their own world, working on themselves, but I do get eyes in my direction once in a while. Story 46. I was an avid swing dancer back in the day and once went to a social dance. I was dancing with this pretty country-looking girl. I asked her what other hobbies she did besides dancing. She answered that she did karate. I said, "Oh wow, I used to do karate when I was younger. Can you show me a move or a kata?" And she said, "Sure thing." So we stopped dancing, and in the middle of the dance floor, she did a little right-left combo and ended up punching me. I cleaned myself up and came back to her, surrounded by her friends. They all laughed at me, and one I remember saying, "You asked for it." I felt pretty helpless and just went home after that, but I couldn't help but think if the roles were reversed, I would have probably been arrested or banned from that dance scene. Story 47. People who think it's okay for cops to be schmucks to people who aren't respectful, but who also think that customer service workers need to sit back and take it when customers aren't respectful. Cops are often dealing with people who've experienced some kind of trauma, people who have bad experiences with cops, etc. If I was just mistreated, the last thing in my mind is remember to be polite, be respectful. I'm probably overwhelmed, emotional, panicky, etc. But if I so much as raise my voice a little or say crap while describing the situation, cops take it as permission to turn on schmuck mode. However, if I'm in a clothing store and a customer comes in shouting or being rude, I'm expected to smile and nod and do whatever I can to help them. If a 16-year-old making minimum wage is to accept being screamed at by strangers because they don't have someone's shoe sizes, cops should be able to maintain their composure when dealing with literal trauma victims. The same idea goes for nurses, social workers, and anyone working with any kind of vulnerable population. Don't take things personally. The world won't stop turning because someone said the F word around you. Story 48. The girls' bathroom got redone in our school, while their bathroom before was infinitely better than the boys' bathroom. The boys' bathroom literally has one lock between all the stalls, and 4 of them don't have doors. We were missing a sink for ages and had no toilet paper for ages. And a female friend told me they get actual toilet paper, while as we have toilet paper thinner than a singular atom, and on top of that, we have tiles coming off the wall and the urinal doesn't flush. Meanwhile, they get all the walls redone and some mural thing in there as well as some plants and stuff. By the way, I know all this not from personal experience, but from some video they showed in assembly glorifying the students who did it. Story 49. I am currently pregnant with my first. I work in the criminal justice system, but in a job that's fairly equally mixed with men and women. As soon as I got pregnant, a male coworker came up and asked me if I would really rather work daily with felons rather than be at home with my child. I asked him if he quit his job when he had a child. Spoiler, he didn't. Later, another male coworker made a comment that I would have to be nicer and play the mom part. I asked what that meant, and he said, like baking cupcakes for the PTA. I asked him if he had ever baked cupcakes for the PTA. Spoiler, he hasn't. I also continued to inform him that if I don't seem like a mom at work, it's because it's not my job to be anybody's mother here. A new position opened up in a specialty area of my job. It would require me to be on call some weekends. I wasn't recommended for the position because I'm pregnant, and it would probably be difficult for me to find childcare on my on-call weekends. My husband works weekends. I was still allowed to apply if I wanted, but I wasn't specifically recommended. But my male coworker, who also has young children, was still recommended without concerns of how he would find childcare, even though both he and his wife work. Story 50. I was in a relationship with this guy, and we both agreed to make it an open relationship. He said he would never want to suppress my sexuality one minute, and the next, he said, "Yeah, we're open, but I want to be the only person you sleep with." I said, "Fine, then you can't sleep with anyone else." He whined and threw a tantrum, saying that's not fair. Anyway, our relationship lasted for like 2 weeks, and I never slept with him, or anyone else during that time period. It was a major schmuck, and this was just one of many red flags. Story 51. At my previous job, only managers were allowed any sort of work-from-home privilege during the lockdown. After the first few months, once things settled down a bit. At the end of 2021, I would have been a lone worker during the holiday season, so I asked if I was allowed to work remotely during that time to complete year-end reports. My request was declined on the grounds of, we don't want to set a precedent that you can't use your PTO days during the year and then get free days off during the holiday season when everyone else is using their PTO that they saved. So I asked what the managers were doing while remote working, and they viewed it as free PTO, and promptly found another job. Story 52. After conception, a woman can decide if she wants to actually become a mother or not, right-wing interference in body autonomy notwithstanding, but a man has very little if any say in the choice to become a father. This is less the case in committed long-term relationships. Both parties have influence on one another. There are certainly instances where a man has undue influence and leverages it to force an outcome, but that is a rare exceptional case, not the norm. Problems with the patriarchy facilitating the ease and prevalence of paternal abandonment and directly related to the issue. Then you have situations like that kid that was essayed by a female teacher, became pregnant from that, and went after him for child support when he turned 18 and actually got awarded the child support, which only muddy these waters further. Story 53. In Singapore, male citizens are conscripted into mandatory national service in the military, police, or civil service after they turn 18 years old, for a period of 2 years. This often means that their life and education are set back by 2 years as compared to their female counterparts in school. It is usually a burden that is heavily felt by the male population as 2 years of their lives are lost, as well as losing to the female counterparts in school and work. It is often a point of debate when topics of workplace salary and gender equality come up. In an interview to ask females about their opinions on national service, a junior college female student, high school equivalent, responded that she thinks NS is great for males and it is a valuable experience as it builds resilience and makes them mature. When asked if females should also serve NS to make it fair for the populace, her reply, "Oh no, I don't want to waste 2 years of my life." No hesitation and straight to the camera. The men of the nation will never forget her. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.